And welcome back to another segment of GCSAA TV Live from the trade show floor of the 2019 Golf Industry Show from San Diego, California. GCSAA TV Live is brought to you in partnership with LebanonTurf. My name is Chris Gray, and I'll be your host for this segment, where I am happily joined on stage by Mr. Anthony Williams, CGCS, Director of Golf Course Operations at the TPC Four Seasons Los Colinas.
Yes.
Anthony, thank you for taking some time out today to talk about what we're going to be kind of the environmental trends and the issues that are facing today's superintendents and today's economy in our world.
Sure, thank you, Chris.
Hey, you know what? It's fantastic that you're here, and you know what, we were just kind of talking beforehand about how, you know, you've really established yourself as an environmental leader. I mean, the Environmental Leader in Golf Awards, the Presidential Environmental Stewardship Award. I mean, you literally wrote the toolkit book on the subject. You've really firmly established yourself. And I guess what I'd first like to know is what's kind of the driving force behind you to want to really go that route?
Well, first of all, it's a sort of a family connection. 6 generations of my family was on the same farm.
Oh, wow.
In rural Georgia, Indian Creek, if you really want the name. So I grew up under the guide of my father and grandfather used to say, if you take care of the land will take care of you.
That's great.
So that was my mantra moving into golf, and it served me very well.
So I feel like our industry as a whole, I mean, we've been doing this for decades at least,
yes,
and working towards it, and we feel like that the industry is really embracing the concepts behind it, what we're doing, try to make sure everything is the way it should be done,
right,
to make sure that we leave it. How do you think that the industry is dealing with that? Do you feel that the younger generations coming up are also embracing that? Because sometimes you get some mixed feelings. Are the millennials really going to be as hardcore as what we are, or has your experience been there maybe even more than what we have been?
Well, I think the millennials are hungry to learn. I think our generation really bridged the gap because we saw that there were a lot of really great reasons to be wonderful stewards of the environment. Yeah. One is it's got some financial returns to the owners,
yes,
for
absolutely.
sure. It also connects you deeper to the community. So it almost turns your golf course into an outdoor classroom and a miraculous green space for just a wonderful variety of plants and wildlife. Mm-hmm. So it's like all these things come together, and as a business owner, what more could you ask than to be profitable, to connect to the community, and to leave a legacy of green excellence? I mean, those are pretty tall things, and I think the guys that are coming up are understanding, and they're catching on what we had, those cornerstones we laid, yep, and they're excited about continuing to innovate stewardship moving forward.
That's good. What kind of strides are you seeing from the younger superintendents? I mean, obviously, we're not spring chickens anymore, okay?
No, we are not.
We've certainly seen.
We are vintage.
That's a great word. We're vintage, we're antique, you know, we're out there. Yeah. As the newer ones come up, are you seeing that they're taking a different approach towards it? Anything? What kind of strides are you seeing from that generation, from the new guys?
Well, it's the information age.
Yes, it is.
So they can Google a lot of things.
Much easier.
A lot more information readily available. We were apprentices coming up. We knew that the chapter connection, where you could get regional guys who had a knack for growing grass and understanding water quality and water conservation. So they can do a lot of things on their own that we really had to come together. But there's a lot to be said for that brotherhood. Yes. For that shared sense of we are better together than we are as individuals. So I worry sometimes that because they can look up so many things on the computer and the information that's coming so readily, that they maybe don't realize how much importance there is to sharing a lunch with a superintendent down the road, or coming to GIS to make sure that you are as innovative as you possibly can be. So again, I think we're all still moving. We're just moving in a slightly different way. And I'm excited. Every day I learn from my young assistants, and I hope every day I give them a little knowledge as well.
You know, I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about being the technology age where we have literally access to every bit of information on our phone, is that it's different. I mean, when we were doing it years ago, right, it wasn't quite as good. I mean, the internet was in its infancy. There wasn't quite as easily accessible. And so sure, to take that and to craft it to be able to use that information for new efforts, for new strides. I think that's really where they've got a leg up on us from when we started, right, to be able to do what they can now build upon that and be able to have all that information to them. I think that gives them a wonderful way to even do a lot more than what we did.
Certainly.
Which I find interesting. I mean, so how do you feel overall about how our overall industry is doing as far as the environmental work that's being done for our industry?
Well, I think we're continuing to move the needle, but I think we still have a lot of room left to move the needle.
Yeah.
So while we have come so far, we're still kind of literally testing the water to see how far we can go. I think that, we left behind a pretty good trail of breadcrumbs. So some of my young assistants, as I moved a few years ago to a new property, I didn't realize that I could be Googled. And that my case studies that I had left behind could be Googled. And of course the textbook added to that some. But I think we did do a good job, our generation, of testing, retesting, putting it out in the field, testing. And as you know, products are so important to what we do. Right product, right time, right situation.
Yep.
So it's not as difficult to put all that puzzle together now. And so that gives us a bit more time to focus on, well, what are the next steps? What's the next logical innovations in stewardship?
Well, the word environmental stewardship, I mean, it's a pretty basic term, and it's a buzzword. It's thrown around a lot, like, yeah, we're very environmental. What does that mean to you? Well, when people say, oh, you're an environmental steward or environmental steward, how would you personally define that as it relates to our industry?
Well, I think that it touches all of the aspects of our business on a daily basis. I think our members from the Greens Committee down, they want excellent playing conditions, but now they want to make sure that we're tempering that as good stewards, and that is very critical to who we are as a business, the value that we add to our membership. So people know that when we hosted our last Nelson in 2017, that was also a year where we won the Environmental Leaders in Golf Contest, and it was important to our membership that we accomplished success in both fields. And I think that marriage is, the term I use is environomic. So we sort of blend our environmental plan into our financial plan, knowing that both have equal merit, and that's important.
That's good. Now, you'd hit on that. Obviously, you've moved geographically. I mean, you used to be down in Georgia, now you're over in Texas.
Yeah.
And each geography has its own different, unique challenges.
Certainly.
And so you've been able to experience a lot of different problems now to what you didn't have before. Yeah. How important is the flexibility, or is the same basic tools used for both of those geographies, or what have you found has been the experience in moving from one to the other? How quick or how easy is that type of transition?
I'll say that while you still have the same tools in the toolbox, you may choose to use them somewhat differently.
Yes.
So it's still about understanding soils and rainfall, average temperature, movement of weather patterns, the type of grasses, whether you're mostly warm season or mostly cool season. But all of it really comes down to a sense of connection, so that you recognize what a fertilizer application, how much N you're going to use, and micros, and that balance. It's all, we say that if you can get the soil healthy, then the grass will certainly be healthier indeed.
Yep.
So that's part of it, is that moving to a new region isn't impossible, but it does require adjustments. And the better your adjustments, I hate to say the reference to the Super Bowl, but somehow the better you are at making adjustments, the more successful you're going to be.
So let's jump into kind of a broader topic. We're moving into 2019. It's February. What do you see as you look at our entire industry now? Yeah. What are the biggest issues? What are the top two, the top three that are really going to be the biggest ones that are going to get the most scrutiny, that require the most action, that require the most innovation in order to help solve, in order to keep our industry sustainable?
Well, naturally, you start the easy ones first. Water is always going to be
absolutely.
Inputs, regulation and inputs and how that works. I'm going to leave kind of labor out to the side of it a little bit, but I'm going to go kind of combine labor with communication. I think the speed of business today, our stewardship has to speed up a little bit. So we're a little reluctant to talk about the good things that we're doing in the golf course and our green space. So I think we have still got some work to do for superintendents to be able to tell a really great green story and have it become so commonplace, and have it in social media and in so many other touches, so that even a person outside of golf would start to recognize golf is good for the environment.
It is. Now, you obviously mentioned water. Water's I think everyone, regardless whether you're here in Southern California, you're in Kansas, Texas, even up in Pennsylvania, everyone's are having the same issues with that one.
Yeah.
What else can we do with water, other than the obvious, let's make sure we're using our irrigation system properly. What else do we need to do, either as individual superintendents, or is there more that the association can do, our industry can do? Because that's going to wind up, that's literally the lifeblood of what our golf courses are.
Oh, absolutely.
What can we do? What have you seen? Because you're involved with the political side, you're involved with all that. What's the answer?
Well, I think it comes to, you got to make sure your data is accurate and it's up to date. And research is a big component too. You know, we talk about the advocacy effort and everything. So we still have to challenge ourselves. Are our wedding agents that we're using today, is there a further advancement to their effectiveness? We also have to be very committed to best management practices and documentation. Region to region, state to state, year to year, the more we can gather that accurate data and compare, how did we do this year versus 5 years ago at a specific property or a specific region or as a total industry? So again, to capture all that requires everybody being completely plugged in to a systematic way to take all this randomness and put it together in a usable format so that when we need it for advocacy or if we're just making decisions day to day on watering on our golf courses, we are without doubt making the best decision possible.
And I think that part of that, as we just briefly touched on there, is the political aspect of this is getting much more difficult to deal with.
Certainly.
And obviously the regulatory issues, and there's parts of the country, obviously they have to pay for water, and the water rates double every 10 years, and to the point. Is there anything, Dan, that individual superintendents can do at a local level to deal with that? Or what advice would you have for those who foresee on the horizon that they're going to have to deal with this a lot differently than they have been?
Yeah, well, it's get involved. Don't just pay your water bill if you're paying for water to a local provider.
Sure.
Know them. Invite them to your club. Go and be engaged and involved. We just did a silt removal project on the canal system that touches our property with the folks there in Dallas County. And so we're building deeper relationships. Also, grassroots ambassadors is a great way to get involved through GCSAA, to touch with your local congressman and get to know them and invite them to understand a little deeper about what happens at your golf course, how it impacts the community. And it's been part of course, my background is to engage in town hall meetings and BMPs and wherever the question is, who's going to be our champions when it comes to water conservation and water quality? And that's where we have an opportunity to step up and really assist legislators and regulators as well.
Sure.
Again, it's about active engagement. And again, it's not about our way's the only way, but it's about coming to a common ground because we're all share community.
Absolutely.
So wanting to have an excellent community where everybody participates and we do what's fair and equitable, that's our message, and we just have to carry it to every person. If they say 1 in 10 people are actually engaged into the game of golf, so we've got to obviously go get those other 9 to understand how many other ways golf is good for the community.
Absolutely, very well said. I think that's just advice that everyone can take to heart and start to implement. What's going to be the next thing? I mean, water's in front of us. We've got inputs in front of us. What's going to be the next hot topic that maybe not everyone's kind of looking at yet, but for those that can look farther down the stream, what's the next thing that we're going to be burdened with?
Well, I think most businesses come in cycles. So, it's funny, in the beginning you see a lot of ag, where it's all about, humates and soil health. And I think that we're seeing that come back.
Sure.
So I also think that one of the things that we're going to see that next wave in the future, we're going to get way more efficient. We're going to have fewer people doing better work. So as we get advances in the iron, so the machines are going to get better, they're going to get quieter, they're going to be able to mow more acres in less time. And as those efficiencies continue to spin, managing, the speed of things is what I see is going to be the challenge we're going to face in the future, because all these regulatory pressures are going to come against us. And then I know in my own staff, one of the things that's unique is that our oldest staff member is in his middle 70s.
Oh, wow.
And our youngest staff member is 18. And so there's a generational thing in there. And as we're putting everybody out trying to create these great products and do these environmental pieces, one of the tricks to being a successful superintendent is keeping everybody equally motivated when they have several different ways of motivation.
You know what, well said. Anthony, I appreciate your time here today. That's about all the time we have for this segment of GCSAA TV Live, brought to you in partnership with LebanonTurf. I'd like to thank Mr. Williams for his time today, and stay tuned for the next content that we have here on GCSAA Live from the 2019 Golf Industry Show from San Diego, California. Thanks.